You can't be a people pleaser and a people leader. This is just water and oil trying to mix together. And what you're about to see is a clip from my Joyous Profits podcast, which is essentially where I take business owners, I coach them live on air on what identity and leadership upgrades they need to make in order to eliminate the profit and time leaks that stall their business and oftentimes come from things like people pleasing and all these other patterns. And what you're going to see is a business owner called Hutton Henry. He's a brilliant tech entrepreneur, due diligence consultant, and basically helps other companies with mergers and acquisitions. He came onto the podcast basically saying, I understand I have these people pleasing issues. I understand that they're causing problems inside of my business, but I don't really understand what it is that I can do with them. So what you're going to see is my commentary on the things that I coached him live on air in that particular episode, and basically going to walk away with 3 core learnings from that commentary. So number 1 is how avoiding confrontation is actually a leak of profit and time that many business owners will not realize for years at a time. And I highlight to that too in this particular clip. How awareness of the fact that you do have people pleasing is probably doing more harm than good and what you can do about it. And ultimately how being nice is basically going to destroy your delegation efforts, probably more than anything else, and how you can flip that to still be a good person, but not have the detrimental effect of nice. You're going to see the clip start first with me, with Hutton on the podcast, and then my commentary in between. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you there. So I know off air you had mentioned a lot of these people-pleasing tendencies or avoiding confrontations, etc., management issues tend to be kind of the sticking points for you in your journey right now. So tell me a little bit more about those.
I think, to be fair, that's not just recently. I think it's a long-term thing, and I believe it's quite an the weird thing about having this front seat watching investors and founders, they often have similar problems. So you can almost watch that movie on yourself, and in a nutshell.
So there's 2 very important points that Hutton outlines here. One is he's been aware of this problem for a long time. And then 2, he's seen other founders and investors have the exact same problem when it comes to the people pleasing and the management issues surrounding their employees and their team members. And this is an extremely critical point because it's something that I see working with clients all the time. And it's a major blind spot because what they're not aware of is the distinction between knowing and understanding. Okay, so here it goes. What you know and can show you actually know, but what you know and you can't show, you only understand. Okay, so let's just run through that one more time. So what you know and you can show, you legitimately know. It's legitimate wisdom. What you know, but you can't actually show it, you simply just understand. Okay, so how does this apply to here? Well, Hutton is very well aware and he understands the nature of the problem, the patterns, his discomfort around it, the dynamics it causes, the consequences of it. But he doesn't actually know the problem because he's never actually solved the problem. Because you can only solve the things that you can actually see. And if you look at this in a simpler example, something like driving. Like if I ask you, like, okay, do you know how to drive? And you're like, yep, absolutely know how to drive. So you then went on to drive, and all you did was drive on a parking lot. And it's like, oh no, I don't do highways. Like I can't go on the road. Like, okay, do you really know how to drive? Well, it's like, yeah, absolutely, I know how to drive. Here's the brake, here's the gas pedal. Here's how I shift gears, and then here's the wheel to turn. Pretty easy to understand how to actually drive. But until you can show that in the context of real life, merging in traffic, going on the highway, different weather conditions, you don't actually know how to drive. Okay, so now if we bring this back to what is happening here with Hutton, he understands the consequences of people pleasing. He understands the management implications of having team members that he can't confront. He sees it in other people. He understands the problem really well. Yet he's like, I mean, I've gotten better at this, but like I haven't actually solved this particular problem. And the reason this is critical is because so many times business owners will go years, literally years, of having all of these profit and time leaks completely destroy the profitability of their business, the time that they spent stressing about it, the lack of presence that they have outside of business, because they're constantly leaking these profit and time leaks in terms of what's happening inside of the business as far as the management pieces that they can't fit together. And even though they've known them for a long time, they keep getting more and more understanding, but not really knowing how to actually fix the issue. And because of that, this is an ongoing thing that like something has to crash before they come and see somebody like me. But that's not necessary. Okay. And the first distinction with it is understanding what's the difference between knowing, what's the difference between understanding, which bucket am I in right now? Okay. So let's see how this continues. And I will add more onto it from there.
Yeah, I'm known to be quite innovative and I'm good fun and I'm a nice person, and that's great. But when you're in the business, you need people to respect things and just keep things going. And I found that a struggle because confrontation isn't my natural thing. And I almost get in my own way with that and let things really build up. And then that's not really fair on staff members. And I don't think it's fair on anyone really. But the main thing is, if it's in your head that you can't confront and you can't set good boundaries and that type of thing, then really the team doesn't know where it's going.
So you see in that continuation how this theme of knowing versus understanding continues with Hutton, because he again illustrates how aware he is of the problem, but like he can't actually embody the change that he needs in order to move forward and deal with these management issues. So there's a few things I just want to highlight with regards to what he said there that points to how even very smart, very successful, very brilliant and competent entrepreneurs can get into this trap of leaking profit and time in these management delegation issues that is ultimately the real root cause of stagnating their growth. So number one, Hutton said, I'm a nice person. Nice and delegation don't oftentimes go well together. And the distinction here is this idea of nice versus kind. Nice optimizes for the result. Kind optimizes for the effectiveness or for the process. What this translates into practically, it is nice not to be disliked. It is nice not to call people out. It is nice not to confront. It is nice not to stir the pot. It is nice not to make other people feel well. It is nice not to make other people aware of their faults. Okay? It is kind, however, to do all of those things because it ultimately helps the transformation and the effectiveness of what both people are in the situation for. You as the boss are there to pay your employees to give you a particular result. The employee is there to be useful, effective, and to utilize the skills and the time they are putting into this cumulative vision of the business in exchange for being fairly paid. So it is kind to actually help build up their ability and or shine the mirror to them in a way that they either rise to that occasion or make the decision to leave, or you make the decision for them to leave. But it is not nice for both parties to suffer, because you got to understand, you are suffering as the business owner that is trying to acquiesce to being nice versus being effective. And the employee is suffering because they think, well, this behavior is clearly fine. The standard of performance is clearly fine because I'm getting my paycheck and nobody's saying anything. So they are also not rising. Like, you are not helping lead them to rise to the potential that they inherently can rise to. Fundamentally, this helps nobody. Fundamentally, it's an ongoing, perpetuating, compounding profit because you sign their checks, time because you compensate for their poor performance. So profit and time leaks that keep compounding over time. And as Hutton mentions, like, this problem doesn't get worse over time. It actually digs in and festers and gets worse. Being nice helps no one. Okay? You can understand that, but until it means you've actually changed it, gotten better and different results, and have embodied being the change of your understanding. Because learning ultimately is, right, same circumstance, different outcome. So if it's the same circumstance and I still continue to do the same thing, I haven't actually learned anything. I understand it better, but I haven't actually made the appropriate change to embody a different behavior, which is then associated with a different and better outcome. Okay, so the understanding, knowing that distinction is a lie that costs entrepreneurs way more money and time than anything they might lose going into programs that don't equate a result, or coaching that doesn't equate a business result if they get like marketing, consulting, etc. Okay, all of that rests on the bedrock of fundamentals of leadership and identity, of moving things towards effectiveness, not towards these distortions of, am I just being nice or am I actually being effective? Okay. And he also mentioned things like confrontation is not my natural thing. For most people, it's not their natural thing. For most people, we've grown up with the messaging and with the mentality that we got to prioritize being liked over being effective. Okay. Put in similarly, we've been taught that we got to tolerate a lot of BS and have actually very low standards for ourselves and for others. And what you notice is when you begin to not people please and you rise your standards, you actually begin to tolerate a lot less. And so many people get offended by that because, like, you're not tolerating what I was comfortable with before. That's actually on you because you are the one changing the nature of the relationship, not them. And when you change the nature of the relationship, the people you got into the relationship with, including your employees, they are not saying, well, I didn't sign up for this. Absolutely. You didn't sign up for this, but the onus is on you to be like, no, these are the standards that are appropriate. And the faster you can implement and referee that, the faster the changes get made. And if you can do it sooner rather than later, you avoid the compounding effect of having to dig yourself out of holes like this particular one. So anyway, if this is of interest to you to go down deeper into it, I actually assess 64 stress drivers that create management, leadership, and profit and time leaks. If that's of interest to you, that's part of my Peaceful Profits roadmap. Just reach out to me and we'll get you started to assess the exact things that cause these behaviors and situations to happen, so you can start plugging your profit and time leaks. Other than that, I'll see you on the next one.